Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of your interactive, discursive, and knowledge sharing program, Global Insight, proposed to you by Globals in the Pan African media. And today we are looking at the situation in Cameroon. Our focal point: fragility of Cameroon pending the 2025 October polls, and of course, what possible solutions. Election periods remain delicate and are always marked by political discourse coming from candidates contesting a position. Cameroonians will decide on October 2025 in a race to the Unity Palace. Our rendezvous today on Global Insight seeks to analyze the fragility of Cameroon in every sphere and see how the impending polls can be a catalyst for change in the political, economic, social, diplomatic life of the country, opening prospects for exemplary leadership and governance, transparency, accountability, peace, development, and sustainability. Notably, the Central West African nation, commonly known as the bedrock of the CEMAC region, rich in culture and natural resources as well as human capital, is grappling with profound challenges that threaten its stability. From the ongoing conflicts in the English-speaking regions, we have also economic instability to rampant corruption, social fragmentation, civic decadence, and other ills. The fragility of Cameroon has far-reaching implications not just for its citizens but for the region as a whole. How therefore can Cameroon move from political rhetoric to practically solving its plethora of issues? What possible solutions may pave the way for a more inclusive and stable future for the Republic of Cameroon, using the 2025 polls as the litmus test for a new Cameroon? Together with a panel of experts, let's understand the complexities of the situation in Cameroon and also explore pathways, all the possible solutions towards solving these crises for peace and democracy to prevail. Stay with us and I'll join you right after the jingle. Thank you again. Is Cameroon on the verge of change or on the blink of a positive change as the nation prepares for the upcoming elections in October 2025? Together with a panel of experts, we're going to be analyzing and exchanging views on how Cameroon can tackle, bringing all the stakeholders on board, tackle the issues which have brought it to a state of fragility, and see how this can actually chart a way forward towards solving most of these problems. And we are going straight away to Spain. We're joined by Dr. Apostle AMBE Valentine in his capacity as a political pundit and also an economic consultant. It's a pleasure to have you this day on Global Insight, Dr. AMBE, to constructively analyze the situation in Cameroon pending the 2025 elections. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Clarice. It's always been an honor and a joy to join you on this Pan-African, very inspiring program. Cameroon is a blessed country. Cameroon is a nation that has experienced a single leader for the past 43 years. And we've had several elections. We've had several moments in Cameroon that we expected change, but unfortunately, the situation has remained the same. But there is a drive in these 2025 coming elections that we believe there's going to be a dramatic change in the political landscape in Cameroon. A lot of political candidates are aspiring to take over power, but you see there is a challenge with the sector of the opposition. Following constructive analysis and understanding how politics operates in the continent Africa, we've seen a lot of countries who have had dictators who've held power for so many years, and these countries came under severe changes by the help of coalition and a merger of several political parties. But unfortunately, in our nation, Cameroon, we are still dancing at the market square. The political leaders of our country actually are not willing for a change, because if at all they are willing for a change, they would have first of all formed a coalition about 2 years ago. The PDP, which is the People Democratic Party in Nigeria, ruled for 16 solid years, and it felt like they were becoming the only political party in the nation. Some other political parties threw away their pride, stepped down from their high horses, came down together, formed a merger that came out as the APC, and the People's Alliance People's Congress conquered the PDP for the very first time. And we have been clamoring for a coalition in our nation, Cameroon, because that is the only way out if we want to actually take power without any gunshot, without any chaos, without any insecurity. If at all we are going to use the ballot box, and then the political party leaders have to step down from their high horses. The SDF is a party that has been there for long. MRC also is a party, PCRN, and then Aperemona of the Universe, with other political party leaders who are supposed to come under a single umbrella to see how they can kick out the party in power. But unfortunately, we are barely 3 to 4 months away to the elections in Cameroon. Unfortunately, Clarice, we have not had any solid coalition among the political parties. I still dream, I still wish, I still believe that a miracle will occur 24 hours before the elections date, that these political parties will come back to their senses to see the need to come under a single umbrella in order to use the ballot box. And I repeat, the ballot box, not gunshots, to kick out the incumbent in power. Because I believe so much that a single party in Cameroon is not strong enough to conquer the party in power. I came up as an independent candidate, and I'm willing to work in a coalition with any political party that is willing to work with us to see how to bring out the party in question. I think that is my approach, and I believe that if at all we engage this strategy properly, we're going to have a smooth running of the 2025 elections in October, and there's going to be a dramatic change as far as the government is concerned. I'll lay this foundation for now before I delve into other issues as the debate continues.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And also in the course of the program, we're going to also understand if actually what Cameroon needs is a change of power, or probably change of strategies to be able to solve the existing problems in the country. And coming to let's go now to the United States of America. We're being joined by Mr. ACHILLE in his capacity as an international financial expert, also a consultant banker. Thanks for joining us today. It's indeed a very delicate topic, like you already highlighted, Mr. Eki, and we want to understand the stakes in Cameroon, which have made the country very fragile, looking at how we can move from political rhetoric to a more maybe constructive discourse that will probably open the trajectory for Cameroon towards solving its problem and capitalizing on its advantages for the growth and development in the country. Welcome again, Mr. Eki.
Thank you, Clarice, for the invitation. I want to say hello to my co-panelists. We haven't had a chance to say hello in the back room. Sorry about that. And well, I think the topic is very interesting in the fact that Cameroon, with its current leader, is one of the the leader that has been in power for the longest on this planet, I believe. And so it's a good and also a bad thing at the same time, because in our upcoming new country that got independent in the 1960s, we had a first president who laid down the groundwork, for the creation of a state, unity, putting unity together, putting all the different structures and institutions of the government in place. But the second president came in the 1980s, in 1982 precisely, and we've seen over the past 43 years, a different course that was charted by his policies that really is showing today that it was not successful. And so I think along the way there are so many bad decisions that were taken. Therefore, we are witnessing today a Cameroon that we do not recognize. Now there is a whole generation of people today, or youth today, who were born, after 1982, who are in the 40s. In their 40s, they haven't seen any other president than the current one, and they don't know what happened, what was in the past, in terms of infrastructures, industries, the growth of the country, the position of the country as one of the most economic developed countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And so we've had so much work that we did, but they're all gone today. We observed that when we go to Cameroon, I was in Cameroon in October, last October. I spent 3 weeks there, but I couldn't really enjoy the country because there's so many issues, especially when it comes to crime, when it comes to corruption, when it comes to the environment that is polluted with all type of bad roads that we have. There's no regulation, people are not following anything. It's just a mess everywhere you go. And in terms of security, we have these people, these kids that get out on the street and start attacking people with machetes and all kind of stuff. And they also kill a foreigner, a French lady when I was there. And so we were kind of obligated to stay within our our homes and not go out. And so my stay there was not very interesting. So I got a really bad feeling about going back to Cameroon when I came back to the United States. But in any case, the country is in a bad shape, and we've seen that today. And the issue is, where do we go from here? Is the current president going to be a candidate? We hear he might retire or he might run. So we haven't decided. We don't know where it's going to land. We're still waiting. But from what I see in the political environment right now, there is one leader that is showing his marks. President Maurice Kamto of the CRM, that is really the one that is giving the tone of the political debate in Cameroon today. And so I don't know if this is a premise for what's going to happen during the election, but there is a lot more time that's going to go by, and we see how this turns out. But for now, I think Cameroon is in a dire strait. We need to get together and fix that country, otherwise we may lose it, definitely. Absolutely. And that will not be a good thing. Yeah.
And I think that is the reason why we're here today, to put our voices together, Mr. Eki, and probably give our proposals on how the stakeholders that be in the country can be more pragmatic or intentional towards solving the problems, actually putting the country at a state of fragility. We are now going to make a stop in Canada to be joined up by Dr. Elijah ENOAKU, Director of Center for Africa Development. It's a pleasure to have you this day on Global Insight, Dr. ENOAKU. And we are pleased to have you contribute your opinion on the stakes in Cameroon, bringing the country, the bedrock of the CEMAC region, into a state of fragility.
Yeah, thank you, Clarice, and thank you to your televiewers all over the world, wherever they are. Cameroon is very pivotal in the Central African region, and we are hoping and praying that there's going to be stability during this election, and any fragility, any instability in Cameroon is going to replicate all over Central African region. Whether it's talking about Congo, whether you're talking about Gabon, you're talking about Chad, you're talking about Central African Republic, even Nigeria. And not only that, Cameroon by itself, the way it stands right now, it's very fragile. So we are talking about a fragile situation, handling another fragile situation, which is very delicate. We have the Anglophone problem in the Northwest and Southwest that's going on right now. We have the Boko Haram issue in the North that's going on right now. We have the tenant problems that are going on right now. We have the bandits in the east part of the country, in east province that's going on right now. So there are so many things that are coming together in such a way that The powers that be. Sometimes when we sound this alarm, people think that maybe we are just alarmists. We are sounding this alarm so that the powers that be understand that there are so many things at stake. If anything should happen in Cameroon, if there's going to be problems in Cameroon, it is going to ravage the whole region. So therefore, let the powers that be do everything possible that Cameroon goes through a peaceful, transparent election that is void of rigging, that is void of issues, that is void of problems, so that the country can progress on whatever has happened in that country so far. So that is why we are all here together discussing and saying, Cameroon authorities, whoever you are, make sure that these elections do not turn into chaos. Make sure that you put all the parameters in place, all the tools in place, all the strategy in place in such a way that you can legitimate. Because the problem is that if the election becomes illegitimate, if it is illegitimized, that is where chaos is going to begin. That's where problem is going to begin. So therefore, everything must be put in place so that these elections are free and fair. That's the premises of our discussion.
Absolutely.
On my own part, let me put it that way.
Absolutely, and also a call to ensure that there are no instances of insurrection or incitement coming from some probably stakeholders for political agenda, and that is why it is imperative, ladies and gentlemen, that we put this on the table to understand both internal and external factors that may probably derail the trajectory as Cameroon is preparing for this very decisive presidential elections in 2025. Before entering into the deep analysis, let's listen to this report presented to us by Laurencia Lum, detailing the fragility of Cameroon and highlighting some of the consequences of such susceptibility of the country.
2025 is a decisive year for the Republic of Cameroon. As the nation gears up for crucial elections in October 2025, a blend of hope and anxiety permeates the electorate, eager to influence the nation's political, social, economic, and diplomatic trajectory for the next 7 years. Though still early to state, the impending leadership will face daunting challenges, notably the persistent Anglophone crisis, insecurity in the far north region, economic downturns, fueled by internal shortcomings and external shocks, alongside severe social fragmentation, which have polarized the backbone of the CEMAC region, bringing it to a state of fragility. The run-up to the October slated polls has been marked by a busy political atmosphere as calls for voter registration resonate across the territory. However, in this crucial moment, we ask pivotal questions. How decisive are these impending polls for Cameroon? Is Cameroon on the brink of change? How can we define Cameroon politics? And what propensity does it have to hijack the polarizing of the political landscape of the country for general public interest? As political discourses from various parties timidly start, the question lies on the intentionality of contenders in letting national interest override their political agenda. Pre-elections atmosphere is often characterized by promises enshrined on candidate manifestos, many which reverberate the problems facing the country, a moment of political rhetorics. The fragility of Cameroon and a looming political crisis therefore puts politicians, economic stakeholders, civil society, and other actors to delve deeper and address the nation's problems. The 2025 presidential election, therefore, serves a litmus test for Cameroon's political maturity, transparency, accountability, and governance, factors that will prepare the country into development and mitigate the adverse effects of polarization. The Carrefour Policy Institute's 2023 report highlights that the Anglophone crisis, which has crippled industrial service performance by over 30%, resulted in a 5.3% export decline and caused a staggering 10.2% drop in investments since 2017. The conflict has also led to about $64 million in destroyed infrastructure, severely impacting agribusiness and energy sectors. Corruption poses a significant barrier, eroding public trust in political institutions and exacerbating poverty. With youth comprising over 60% of the population, high unemployment, aggravate discontent, and threaten social cohesion. The post-2025 electoral landscape will likely hinge on the perceived integrity of the electoral process, while a genuinely free and fair election could rekindle hope for democratic governance. Risks of electoral lapses and violence remain high in the politically fragmented context. There is need to mitigate. The aftermath will be critical for Cameroon's stability. An inclusive governance model that represents a variety of voices could lay the groundwork for reconciliation. Prioritizing dialogue is essential to tackle the deep-seated issues driving conflict. Future strategies must therefore emphasize inclusive governance through coalition building, nationwide dialogue forums for diverse input, decentralization to empower local authorities, and establishing conflict resolution platforms that engage traditional leaders. Promoting peace, tolerance, and civic engagement through education and awareness campaigns will also be instrumental. Creating a peaceful and inclusive environment will be vital for Cameroon beyond the elections. Creating a better scope with increased civic engagement for addressing the nation's plethora of problems definitely will write a largely positive post-2025 elections era in Cameroon.
Welcome back, and thank you so much, Laurencia Luma, for that detailed report. How can we write a good trajectory for the country during or pre, during, and post elections come October 2025 in Cameroon? And from the report, I will channel this question to you, Dr. AMBE. Now we are looking at the state of fragility in Cameroon, and let us acknowledge three actors here. We have personality, we have institutions, and other minor stakeholders. Here the personalities include the government. So now understanding why Cameroon is at this state of susceptibility that we have even heard some reports from think tank groups. So what do you think is the premise of this susceptibility? Can we allude it to the institutions? Can we allude it to probably the personality at the helm, and also maybe to the minor stakeholders, those at the lower level, and probably their assignments towards ensuring peace and development across the globe, across the country?
Thank you, Clarence, for that very brilliant question. No Cameroonian, no institution, no personality is guiltless with the instability and the fragility of Cameroon.
Sure.
Let me begin with the Anglophone crisis that started some 80 years ago. The Anglophone crisis took another turn when the government was unable to manage very simple, insignificant challenges. And because of that, it erupted to a level where we find ourselves today. In 2018, we had elections in Cameroon. The Anglophone crisis was at its peak. That instability, that confusion, the elections held, nevertheless, but the results were very, very bad. We had Boko Haram in the north. We had the challenges in the east. Right within the government, corruption and everything we are seeing today was there in 2018. The challenge was that there was voters' apathy within that period. Many people had given up when it comes to voting. People were no longer interested because there was this narrative that went throughout the nation that there is no need voting, because if you vote, it doesn't count. The elections will be rigged, your votes will be stolen, and there is no guarantee that if you vote, you're going to bring any change. So because of lack of political education, many Cameroonians had fallen into voters' apathy. But I think that there's a certain level of sensitization in this 2025 and a kind of education, political education, that has infiltrated the hearts of Cameroonians. And if you look at the number of registered voters now, it's far more better than 2018. In 2018, the results came out, almost about 3 million people voted. But this time around, we had already about 10 million registered voters, which is something that has never happened in Cameroon. I think as the days go by, the political education of the masses is changing the narrative. And I believe the more the masses register to vote, the more difficult it may be for those who are in the government, whom they claim to rig the elections, to rig the elections anymore. One other thing I want to lay as emphasis is this. The government also should help in promoting peace and serenity. People should be given opportunity to exercise their civic rights. Parties should be given the opportunity to exercise their political rights. Because when I see intimidations of political candidates who want to visit their own militants and they are being blocked, they are kept under house arrest, it is unconstitutional. Those are the kind of things that spark up chaos in the nation. Those are the kind of things that bring pressure. We are already in a very fragile situation. I don't think the government should be doing things that will aggravate the fragility of the nation. What we should be doing right now is to gather the broken pieces of what the Anglophone crisis has caused, Boko Haram has caused, the crisis in the East has caused, corruption has caused, and the destruction in infrastructure. There are places you cannot circulate in Cameroon. The very capital, which is the administrative capital, the roads are all in shambles. The economic capital, everything is bad. I mean, the standard of living has dropped. From the report Laurasia gave, we have about 64 million properties destroyed already because of the Anglophone crisis. So I think if the government wants the nation to actually walk in peace or stay in peace, they should do everything possible to allow to exercise their civil right and allow political parties to exercise their political right. The masses are also part of the crisis, because if the masses actually know where the nation is heading for, they will definitely do everything possible within their power to make sure that in a civil manner, the party or the government in question is kicked out of power. I think there is a possibility through the ballot box to bring a change in Cameroon. I don't believe violence, because they have exercised violence for the past 8 years. More souls have died, properties destroyed, roads, infrastructure, and every other infrastructure in some of those regions of the country, they are totally destroyed. We complain that the infrastructure is not good, but we have also contributed, because sometimes construction companies are sent to particular communities to go and better up the roads, yet we the civilians and sometimes the people fight these construction companies, kidnap some of their workers, and then when the roads are bad, we complain that the roads are bad. I think nobody is guiltless. I think all of us should come to a point of humility, acknowledge the fact that in one way or the other, we have contributed to the destabilized position of Cameroon today. We have contributed to the fragility of Cameroon today. We have also contributed to the economic meltdown of Cameroon today. And I believe if all of us accept this responsibility and also acknowledge our failures, that will be the beginning of a dramatic turnaround as far as the nation is concerned. Absolutely. I don't want to lay blame on the government and put the civilians aside, because everybody in one way or another is guilty of what is happening. Because if the boys did not take guns into the bushes, we would not have arrived where we are today as far as Northern and South is concerned.
And so that is why, of course, Dr. AMBE, sorry to interject, just to note that that is why Global Insight today is trying to bring about a clearer understanding of the role of each stakeholder towards resolving the problems of Cameroon, putting aside political rhetoric that we always see from politicians, especially at the time of vying probably to impress eligible voters. So now let me come to you, Mr. ACHILLE, in the same perspective, trying still to understand how this fragility has actually affected the public perception and of maybe and trust on institution, and probably affected civic engagement, and what is the way forward as the country prepares towards this very decisive polls?
Right, that's a very important question, because you have a feeling when you go to Cameroon that people have given up in terms of politics, in terms of what is happening to them. There is some kind of lethargy. People are just frustrated to the point where they don't even care anymore about what happens to them. It's just something to witness, to feel, it's just unbelievable. So when, you know, with so many years of repression and death for people who are exercising their human rights, you know, their God-given rights, their constitutional rights. You know, it has become Cameroon has become a situation. It has become a country where the simple fact of thinking that you're going to march to express yourself without violence, without any weapons, without anything, that is akin to secession, is akin to subversion. I mean, they will tax you with anything. So people don't really know what to say, what to do anymore. You march, you get, you know, jail for that. You don't even march, just your opinions, like we're talking right now on TV, you could go to jail for that. It's just so many things that is happening. If you denounce, you could be killed. There is so many. We have this guy who's journalist that was killed in Yaoundé because he was denouncing the system, and he got trapped, he got killed and chopped into pieces. And really, it's just unfortunate what we witness in our country. It's heartbreaking when you go to Cameroon, you see the situation, you're like, oh my God, this is not the country I grew up in, you know? So those kind of situations of repression, this is what fueled, you know, the Nozo War. I mean, the situation in Northwest and Southwest, you know, a small, you know, gathering of teachers, you know, trying to, make their voices heard. You know, it started with lawyers and then teachers, and, you know, all of a sudden the government sends troops to rattle them and start beating them and abusing them. And, you know, so that's how, you know, this whole thing unfolded. And it unfolded in front of our eyes. We saw it happening, and it's a disaster. It still continues today, but we still haven't found a solution. So those are the things that create distrust from citizens in the institutions. If you can't say anything, if somebody beats you and you can't cry, the simple fact of crying is also, you can go to jail for crying. So what are you supposed to do? So I think that's why it's important that the government understand that it's leading people is not just repression, it's listening to their needs, listening to them. And that's the most important part of governing, of managing. If you are a leader, whether you are an entrepreneur leader, you know, a family leader, or whatever leadership position you have to sit down and listen. Even your own nuclear family, if your small family, if you are the father, you are the chief of the family, if you don't listen to your wife, to your kids when they have complaints, it's not going to work. They're going to rebel against you, and you are not going to blame them. You have to blame yourself for not listening to them. It's the same thing with a country. When people in different parts have issues, you have to sit down. If the issue becomes very, very crucial to the stability of the country, get all the, you know, the stakeholders of the country, of different sectors of the country, get them together around the table and figure things out. Let people's energy, you know, come out and let them express themselves, and then make suggestions as to how we can best handle it. And then because people think they know everything. You don't know everything. No, you don't. It's impossible. So you have to work with your members, with your families, with the stakeholders in the case of a country, and listen to their needs, not just listen, practice active listening. Actually, not just listening and pretending that you listen. No, practice active listening, listen to the needs, and then figure out together the solutions, and everybody comes out winning. So that's what's lacking in our system, in our country. This French system of authoritarianism, of what is that? You know, where the president dictates everything, the president becomes a god in the country. That doesn't work. In the case of Cameroon, it's very apparent, especially for a leader that's been there for 43 years as a president. And before that, he was, you know, he joined the government when he was 29 or 39, something like that. So really, it's been a mitigating disaster for what for what I've seen, and we really have to pay attention to those small issues. Now we are in a situation where if this election doesn't go well, if we still talk about fraud or all kind of issues, it could degenerate, and we don't know where it's going to go. But I think the government has to pay attention to this, especially today, where with all the social media that is everybody has access to social media today. Communications is in a second. People talk in a second. Videos circulate in a second. So anything happening whatever remote area in the country is going to be seen by the whole world. So the government have to be very, very careful in handling, especially the fact that Mr. Biya is 92, 93 years old. People don't feel that he's running the country anymore. People are talking about his wife running the country, or third parties running the country. So it's
we
probably
cannot
speculation.
actually affirm if actually that has not yet been confirmed.
Right, but I'm just talking about what people are saying on social media. But the president is the one that is responsible of the ongoing activities or the well-being of the country, and so I believe he's still he's still running the country, just this. But the problem is that with the fact that his age, is weighing on him. The fact that some ministers have been there for 20, 30 years, there is some kind of lethargy happening. People are not, working as hard as they could to fix the country. And so there is a need for change, for succession. And that fight for succession is both internal into the CPDM and also nationwide with all the political leaders that are fighting that are joking to win the election. So it's a very delicate situation, and that's why we are cautioning everybody, the government especially, to be careful. This is a very, very tricky part of Mr. Biya's presidency.
Thank you for that, Mr. Eke. And still looking at the role that every stakeholder has to play. When I listen to your preliminary analysis, gentlemen, we will probably go to the conclusion that the large probably fragility or susceptibility of the country is probably in the sphere of politics. And I come to you, Dr. Elijah ENOAKU, I beg your pardon, still wanting to ask from the analysis of Mr. Eke. We listen, of course, this is a digitalized world, and a lot can happen that will lead to polarization, and we know that the third party can actually take advantages of the lapses of the government. He made mention of the fact that government forces now it brings actually molested teachers who are actually having a peaceful work. Now so let us try to look at it in a different way, and maybe trying to analyze it in a way that is more constructive towards attaining the goal of this program. Is the place of mindset. With all that has been happening, how can you probably define the political scene of Africa, of Cameroon, the political ideology of Cameroonians, and how they maneuver everything from the level of the government right to the layman on the streets? How this is actually helped in bringing the country to the state of this susceptibility or fragility that today, like we said, like was already cited by you and the other guests, that when you try to do a survey, you see that there is a low level of civic engagement in Cameroon.
Clarice, thank you. Let me just go back a little bit to a couple of things that the other gentleman already mentioned. Highlight some of the things that we're talking about. Let's realize that, first and foremost, the foundation of any electoral system is the institutions that govern that electoral system. That's the foundation. When you build the institutions that govern the electoral system, and those institutions are solid, it becomes a constitutional monument for everyone to look up to and say, our democracy stands, our institution stands. Like, look at what's happening in the United States. I would give that's an extreme to say, that's advanced democracy. But you see what's happened like Donald Trump. Even though he tries to use power or abuse power, but the courts are there to put in checks and balances to make sure that he cannot do certain things. So that's what I mean by the institutions that demonstrate that we have a stable democracy or our elections is stable. It's where the government was supposed to build on, which is some of the problems that we have in Cameroon. Number one, let's look at the electoral system. The electoral systems, for example, ELECAM states there very clearly in its mandates that the list of electors is supposed to be published. It's supposed to be published, I think, 30th December, if I remember the last time I read it, every single year. Electoral registers were revised, and this list was not published. Now, a political party, well, I have the right to call the name, the MRC, took the government to court and say, this is what the law says. The list of electoral registers is supposed to be posted. The Constitutional Council, which is supposed to be the law of the land when it comes to dispute of elections in Cameroon, listen to me very well, says they are not qualified to handle such cases. Matthew, they said they are not qualified to handle electoral dispute. So if the Constitutional Council that is there to handle issues of electoral dispute and so on and so forth, it's not qualified to handle a case brought about only on a case that they are supposed to handle. That tells you that the institutions that exist that are supposed to build, we're talking about fragility in the system. The institutions that exist are by themselves fragile, and by that itself, it gives lack of confidence to people that want to go to vote. My colleague over there has talked about voter apathy. That's true. There's so much voter apathy. But the question that you ask is, why is there so much voter apathy? When you see things like this happening, that a political party has no recourse to law because they have no way to go. They have no court that seems to, back any claim of legitimacy. That tells you that people lose hope and faith in that system. It's a system that is void of legitimacy and people lost hope. That's number one. Number two, my colleague in Cameroon mentioned about an opposition not having the freedom to go around it. If you cannot exercise your peaceful, legitimate right to gather in a country, you cannot exercise your peaceful, remember the word peaceful, I want to emphasize here, peaceful, legitimate right to gather and present your mandate or your agenda or your memorandum, whatever you're going to do. If you do not have that, that tells you that there is lack of legitimacy in the system, and those are some of the things that are going to be fragile. Listen, there's a saying, can't remember the popular philosopher that said is that when injustice becomes a right, resistance becomes a duty. When you push down people to a place where they cannot talk, they cannot proclaim whatever they want to say, they cannot express themselves, their opinion cannot be heard, or their leaders that channel their opinions are being hampered, I am telling you, it is going to lead to resistance. So the Cameroon government should understand that some of the things that they are doing, they are the one bringing the fragility that we are seeing in the system as we speak as of now. Number three, let's talk about the situation in Cameroon. This northwest and southwest issue that's going on right now. I don't want to go into the details or whatnot. What you will think is that under this kind of situation, you are going to look for a solution to bring the two parties to the table to see how the issue can be resolved, so that when elections are held, they become representative of the people at hand. If elections are held in Cameroon now that are going to be held, whether they're municipal election or parliamentary elections, can the Cameroon government legitimately, honestly, tell the world that the people that are representing Northwest and Southwest are clear representative of the people, it's almost impossible. So those are some of the things that we are talking about. The government needs to put things in place in such a way that this fragility that exists in the system is taken away. Let's go to the ID cards. We heard some time ago how people were trying to get ID cards, they couldn't get ID cards and all whatnot and all whatnot. Then we also saw a situation where some whistleblowers discovered that people were secretly creating ID cards for I don't want to call the political party, but we all know, for a political party so that their militants can go and vote. Instead of investigating the issue and making sure that whoever was doing that is being, reprimanded, the whistleblower, as we speak, is in Kondenge. So you are indirectly saying those who are trying to corrupt the system in favor of one political party are promoted, and those who are trying to bring peace and those who are trying to bring peaceful transition and elections are those who are the enemy. That is a fragility that you're injecting into the Cameroonian system in such a way that when it blows up, Cameroon government might not be able to follow. Time will fail me, courage, to tell you more that they are legitimate things when a minor thing. Imagine a political party president coming from abroad and he's being put on house arrest, not because there is any political, illegal political assembly that he was supposed to have, just because of fear of his members, whatever it is, and there was no iota of violence. Yet, you create a situation of tension. You, as a government, you are not bringing a situation of peace in the country. You are bringing a situation of fragility in such a way that the littlest spark problems is going to be. So again, we are calling an alarm on the powers that be, on the population and everyone, that Cameroon is a fragile political system. As we speak right now, everything should be made to lower the tension and not to increase the tension. That is the point we are trying to make here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The goal is to lower the tension and be more logical and pragmatic in handling national affairs that will probably solve the country's plethora of problems. And we are seeing the 2025 impending elections to be that litmus test, or to be that catalyst that will write a new trajectory for the Republic of Cameroon, and of course ensuring that post-election era will be a new dawn in terms of the political system. As you said in our preamble, we highlighted the fact that there are anticipation that these elections will actually bring about a new form of leadership and governance, also capitalize on transparency and accountability. And I think if we are looking at the fragility of Cameroon today, Mr. ACHILLE EKEU, we are tempted to say that some of these problems have actually sustained because of the absence of transparency and accountability, especially pertaining those handling very important issues of the country. So what do you have to say in line with these two ideologies, and probably the role of the government and other minor stakeholders in ensuring that events during, before, during and post elections will actually be meaningful in Cameroon, that we will not actually be talking about very minor issues, but then looking at how Cameroon can capitalize and gain a competitive edge globally, not just within the region.
All right, you mentioned transparency and accountability in Cameroon. This is a major issue. I think this is the reason why the country is in the shape that it is right now. Cameroon consistently ranks among the world's most corrupt countries, right? In 2024, it scored 26 out of 100 on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. It ranked 140th out of 180 countries, which is a decline from previous years. So this reflects widespread impunity for corrupt officials, restricted, it restricts, civic space, and it limits access to justice. We've heard countless stories about people going to court after causing crimes and are able to go free just because they bribed the judge, and they're confident about it. It's something that's normal, that is happening every day. And when we look at the World Bank's 2023 rating of transparency and accountability, as well as corruption in Cameroon, stands at 3 out of 6, which indicates that it's only a moderate progress that has been ongoing in that country for the past few years. And so President Paul Biya's government has announced, of course, in the past, different anti-corruption measures, promising sanctions and misappropriation of public funds, and emphasizing, of course, good governance. That's always. But what we see on the field is, we notice in Kolenge right now, which is the major prison in Yaoundé, there is an entire government that is in jail, and there are other people that are still out there just doing the same thing. We have so many scandals of corruption. When we think about the African Cup of Nations, they talk. The budget for that was 3,000 billion CFA francs, and nothing was done. We think about COVID. In COVID-19, the money that was given by international community, but I think about 180 something billion dollars, that also disappeared. And so there's so many things, and we have institutions like the National Anti-Corruption, body that has been, putting reports out there frequently, stigmatizing, those situations in Cameroon. But it doesn't seem like the response is appropriate, and it seems like this is the feeling that people have. The country is not being run because there's countless situations of corruptions, of bribery, of officials, of senior officials. We even think I remember the Glencore issue, right? Glencore is a company that gave, allegedly that bribed, from or what they call it in Cameroon, the structure that deals with oil in Cameroon. They bribed those officials, and that Glencore went to court and testified and explain how they were able to bribe the different officials. But nothing has happened in Cameroon since those allegations came out. So it feels like nothing is working. No one is being held accountable for embezzling funds, and I'm hearing here and there from different people again on social media that right now people are fearful that Mr. Kamto will take over the country, and so there's a lot of embezzlement happening right now. People are trying to embezzle money, embezzle funds, and hide whatever they can. And hopefully, Mr. Biya is going to be a candidate for them. It's like if Mr. Biya is a candidate, then it gives them assurance that he's going to win, and therefore, they could be quiet. But if he's not a candidate, then things could get dicey for them. So it's a lot of issues that need to be handled. But we don't see institutions. We don't see institutions that are specialized in these different areas working properly to protect the country, to protect the citizens. No, we don't see that working. They're all corrupt, and corruption is widespread. It's open. It's not even hidden. It's unbelievable. So I don't want to paint a very dark picture of our country. There are some stuff that are being happening. The people are very strong in terms of mentality, in terms of entrepreneurship. You see everywhere people trying to find ways to organize their life, their communities, trying to fight the situation they're living in, and despite the fact that they don't have the means to be able to handle everything, but they're doing the best, to keep their heads out of the water. but it's not enough. The government has to play its part, otherwise the country is going to crumble. Now, the elections, this is why I'm saying these elections are very important for the country for the next 50 to 60 years. It's going to be critical if we don't come out of this and reverse course, as with what we have right now. If we continue for 7 more years like this, and Mr. Biya, if he's the candidate, he's going to end up being at 100. Maybe I don't know if it's possible to even think about somebody who's 100 years old running a country. I don't understand how people are so blind, to those kind of to the consequences of somebody that old. There's nothing against being old. It's just the fact that running a country, a strategic, a very important country like Cameroon, which is a central, this is a critical country in the Central African region. It's very difficult. It's very demanding. And so if you don't have the physical capacity, the intellectual capacity to be able to do it properly, it's not going to work, and the whole region could crumble. And I've seen some French officials already wary of what's going on. I've seen some generals from the gendarmerie coming to Cameroon. I've seen the ambassador of Cameroon, of French in Cameroon, trying to inquire of the election preparations, from the Minister of Territorial Administration. I've seen, all kind of stuff happening, and people are questioning what is happening. Is it French trying to exert, its power or its control or its influence, to keep Mr. Biya in power, or what is happening? So there's so many questions that are coming up, and we don't really know what's happening. But this deal that they signed with the United Nations, what is that? That's another issue that is aggravating the situation. People are feeling that what happened in Ivory Coast may happen in Cameroon, because everything is in the dark. No one is talking about it. Nothing is official. It's all done, under the radar. But we're just witnessing people doing things, and that is not a situation that is going to, bring peace, bring comfort to the population. They don't know what the government is doing. Are they trying to protect themselves? Are they trying to? They don't know. There's so much speculation. So it behooves the government to explain what is happening, to explain to the population why are we seeing all these people? What is the point? What are we gaining? Are they preparing for something? So people will know. And if people don't feel comfortable, if people start speculating, that could lead to a situation that could get out of hand, and that is bad. That is really bad if we keep doing this. So to answer the question, really, all this corruption, all these poor governance are really a hindrance to the development of our country. It is something that we have to be very mindful of, and especially the government, because they are the one leading, they are the one running the country for the past 50, 60 years. And so it's very important that they provide the information that's going to keep the population in peace, comfortable, knowing that they're going to go to an election without, fearing for, anything that could happen to them, to their lives, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. EKEU, and that is why we are here trying to analyze and understand all of this. Let come back to your Dr. Apostle AMBE. Now, let's look at it, listening critically to the analysis you and the other gentlemen have probably brought forth, patterning the situation in Cameroon. It brings us to the position where EKEU has a huge role to play. And I also want to would love to have your insight on the role that EKEU has to play that will make citizens believe or regain the trust in the independent body that is in charge of probably running elections in Cameroon. And then from the analysis presented by Dr. ENOAKU and Mr. EKEU, I'll also add this question for probably do we find ourselves in a position where there is a problem of a system or a personality, or do we find ourselves in a position where we have both the problem of a personality and a system. Personality, like who is at the helm, and do you think already we are yet to uncover the contenders for the upcoming polls? So what prospects, and of course, especially the ball on the field of ELECA to ensuring that we move towards a clear trajectory for Cameroon this time around?
Yes, Clarice, you know, countries have different systems of government. You have democracy in some countries, you have socialism, you have communism in some countries, but you are yet to define the system of government that operates in Cameroon. We were told that Cameroon has a presidentialist system of government. I think I grew to be a man to hear that there is a government called the presidentialist system of government. That automatically makes all the institutions that we call independent institutions not to be independent. To the best of my understanding, ELECAM is supposed to be an independent institution in Cameroon, managing the affairs of the nation. But if you look at it critically, ELECAM is not independent as per se, because the activities carried out by ELECAM and the power and the influence of the ruling party over ELECAM is so much that you may want to wonder if an ELECAM is a subsection of the CPDM political party, because ELECAM does not run as an independent body in the nation. That alone punctures the efficacy of ELECAM and its strength in operating and managing electoral principles in the country. ELECAM has not helped elections in Cameroon. Why? I'm going to give you very important facts. The fact that people are caught printing voters' registration card as a party automatically tells you that ELECAM is impotent, because that function is supposed to be the function of ELECAM. ELECAM is the one that registers citizens and equally issues the voters' registration card. But you find out that political party leaders in their bedrooms produce the same cards that they use. Now, how does it happen that ELECAM does not know the difference between the original of the card they produce and the fake of the one produced by some of these political pundits? I am sure they were supposed to do a proper scrutiny of those cards to know the original and the fake. Anybody or nobody can sit in his room and produce the Cameroon national ID card, because there are codes on those ID cards that if at all it is passed through a machine, you will be able to know the fake and the original. Traveling and coming to Spain, when I landed in Morocco, a scan was placed on my visa to know the authenticity of the visa. That tells you the Spanish government knows the visa and it knows the fake of the visa. Now, if people can produce voters' registration card in their bedrooms and still sail through the election polls, it tells you that ELECAM does not have control over the electoral cards. That's one weakness of ELECAM. Number two, the electoral codes in Cameroon, they have been clamoring for a change in the electoral code. I'm saying so about ELECAM because it's the same thing that happens to the judiciary, the same thing that happens to the legislative. Our parliament does not give or vote rules. We only endorse what the president decrees. So in other words, we are in a system of government that is like a monarchy, yet termed a democracy. And that's the reason why the institutions have no independence. In the institutions that are supposed to fight against corruption, like CONAC, like CONSUPE, and all these institutions, they don't even have the power to prosecute people who violate or steal state budget. This goes back to tell us that it's very serious. The Constitutional Council, like Dr. Elijah said, is supposed to be the one to regulate the judiciary aspect of elections. But you see a case is brought to it to say that is not their jurisdiction. Then why did we have the Constitutional Council? Because the Constitutional Council came under duress. Cameroonians kept pressing, praying, crying, complaining. When the institution came, we thought, oh, something has come that will regulate the malpractices of the electoral system in our nation, only for us to fall back in the same shoe when the same body that was created to regulate electoral mishaps in the nation is unable to manage the same thing it was assigned for. Are we creating offices to appoint people to enjoy state budget while these institutions are unable to carry out their activities, or what? So to me, the best of my understanding, ELECAM is not eligible, let me put it this way, or it's not credible enough to give us the confidence that the elections will be free and fair in the nearest future. What I think we have to do is that they have to scrape some of the institutions and then be able to revamp the constitution to send independent individuals to manage these institutions. Because I will tell you with all sincerity that people who are part of the ELECAM are part of the ruling party. And I believe these individuals who are supposed to be part of the ruling party are not supposed to be part of the electoral body that controls elections in the country. You don't expect to give granules to a rat and you expect the rat to keep it for you. The rat will eat up the grains of granite and you will find an empty bag. So the elections, that's why you see most people say, oh, the results have already been determined before the election, because the election is in the hand of the opposition, the party in question. It's like your father is the judge and you are in court. You can never lose the case. So I believe that ELECAM has not been playing its role as that independent body to manage the elections in the country. Now, what are the things we're supposed to do in order to curb this unfortunate situation? Because we are moving towards another electoral year. In October, we'll be going to the polls in all the different parts of the country. Sure. The destiny of the nation Cameroon is in the hand of the masses. Unfortunately, political parties that are present, they are not representing in all the polling units in the nation. So corruption and malpractices are bound to manifest because we are not even represented. I said once that to run a campaign or run an election, it entails not just the number of people in a political party, it entails cost. How many polling stations do we have in Cameroon? More than 3,100 polling stations we have in Cameroon. And some polling stations do not even have any opposition party representing them. So why do we expect election not to be stolen in those polling stations? That is what the problem is. Also, the fact that elections are read 15 days after vote is another mafia put in place. Because I don't see how people vote within 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, they're unable to, to read the election result. They sit and package it for 15 days and then they bring the result that they have, not the one that we want. So I think all these things, electoral laws are supposed to be restructured, they're supposed to be reconfigured, and they're supposed to be adjusted to produce free and fair elections. If that is not done, then I think we'll be playing pranks.
And that is where the problematic lies. A bigger question going again to the authorities that we should be actually there's a saying that the world is evolving, and I think everything around the world is evolving, and that's why we can confidently talk about a revolution across the African continent. But then how can internally Cameroon stakeholders, those making the laws, bring to writing a new Cameroon for the best interest of Cameroonians? And I think this is something that we prioritize at the beginning of our conversation about forgetting political rhetorics. I wouldn't want us to engaging into maybe Professor Maurice Kamto having a rally and it is being distorted. But then I think that we are gradually understanding that it is imperative to understand the stakes, analyze the stakes, and then see the assignment that each person has to play, be it on the part of the government, on the part of the civil society, on the part of those the lay citizens towards a common good of the country. And it brings us now to understanding with Dr. Elijah ENOAKU. What do you think at this particular moment of that, given the points Dr. AMBE just highlighted, the lapses of ELECAM, and then I think it's not too late for the authorities that be to try to bring in neutral bodies to try to fix some of these problems. Like I said earlier, people can always infiltrate or probably take advantage of the lapses in the government and orchestrate malpractices, which sometimes will allude to the government, whereas the real person behind it is actually at large. So now, what can the government do at this particular moment to ensure that events leading to the October polls are more clear, concise and probably given that trust again in the electoral system as we work towards having a new era for Cameroon in every dimension?
One answer: bring down the tension. Bring down the tension. My colleague already mentioned about ELECAM and mentioned that ELECAM members are CPDM members. That's a fact. It's not a rumor. That's a fact. When Cameroonians complained that ELECAM is being stuck with members of the ruling party, and they were expecting with the departure, I think one of the members of ELECAM passed away or something happened. Cameroonians were expecting that. An opposition, a neutral person was going to be appointed and, assigned that role. But recently, what did we see? A CPM Central Committee member was appointed to join the ranks of ELECAM. Mm-hmm. How are you bringing down the tension? When people are expecting a situation to get better, you make it worse. That is the problem we are talking about here. ELECAM, we talked about voter apathy, for example. How does voter apathy comes about? Comes about by a couple of things. Number one, when people do not believe that elections are going to be fair, free, and fair. That's how voter apathy come about. Number two, when previous elections have come and gone, and there's been no iota of peace and free elections exhibited, that is going to bring down, increase voter apathy, because people are going to say, last time we voted, nothing happened. This time around, we are going to vote. What's going to happen? Number four, I want to point out something that the Catholic Church said. When the Catholic Church came out and vehemently opposed the candidacy of President Paul Biya, it wasn't because the Catholic Church is against President Paul Biya, or it wasn't because the Catholic Church has suddenly become an opposition political party. This is common sense. This is common sense. At that age, there is no way that you can be efficient to run a country like that.
Absolutely.
There's no way.
Absolutely.
There's no way you can be efficient. They say in English that there is a way that no matter how good you are, you need to know how to exit the stage as a dancer. I'm not a politician. I don't intend to be one. No matter how good he has been, he needs to know the stage at which to exit the stage. There's no way you can run a country at that age, a country like Cameroon. It is not because the Catholic Church has suddenly become an opposition party. This is common sense. So when things like that are happening, and we still see members of the regime propagating and bringing this propaganda that, is the President Paul Biya and so on. So Cameroon is matter of close to 30 million imbeciles. Except one. That's what they're trying to say. Cameroon is matter of 30 million imbeciles. We can't rule the country. Nobody else can rule the country except one person. These are the things that we're talking about now. If the government is trying to bring tranquility to the country, they cannot be propagating this kind of agenda and say that, we are trying to bring down the tension. You are upping the ends. And if there's a spark, I don't want to be a sort of here, but I'm just being cautious that the government should do everything to bring down this tension and this temper. ELECAM was supposed, since you asked me about ELECAM was supposed to run a serious campaign of voters registration, campaign on TV, campaign on the streets, go street to street and get people registered. But what did we find? We found political parties that were trying to register members and push people both on social media and so on to go and register. And we have a minister of state that was against that and say political parties should not force people to register. If the minister who is supposed to be in charge of election sends that kind of message and say political parties should not push people to register, That is not a signal of a government that want to maintain tranquility. That is a signal of a government that want to bring the iron fist and say we will either win by hook or by crook. So we have to say it the way it is. And being honest to you, Cameroonians must be aware, and the government must be aware, that Cameroon is at crossroads as we speak. And all the things that the government is doing, we don't want to talk about corruption and all the like here, because the country has been, in fact, as we speak, Cameroon is borrowing, oh my goodness. The last time I checked, Cameroon is borrowing, I think, close to $1 trillion from the World Bank. And when that money is being borrowed, my colleague already talked about some of the scandals. Talk about COVID gate, talk about Olekam gate, Olembe gate, all these gate. It is so dire the situation. When the people hear these things, at the end of the day, nothing happened to the suspect. Again, that brings a lack of confidence in the system. Because when we talk about system, it is not just the electoral system, it is the system of governance,
Absolutely.
the electoral body, the judicial system, the executive. These are the statues that maintain a real democracy. My colleague jokingly said that we don't know if Cameroon is a democracy or socialist or monarchy or whatever it is. Let's call it a semblance of democracy, for example. These are the statues that maintain some semblance of democracy. But when these symbols are being tampered upon, or are being presented to the population like a toothless bulldog, they don't mean anything. The president can rise up at any time and make any decree to change some of this. You talk about a country in Cameroon that is an eyesore of democracy. The Cameroonian Senate, for example, because we are talking about this because we expect a revamp of the democratic process in Cameroon. The Cameroonian Senate, that is like a useless body, is made up of one political party. Go around the world, any country that claims itself to be a democracy, and tell me one country where the Senate of that country is controlled by one political party. I'm talking about a country that calls itself a democracy. That is an aberration. That's what we say. The electoral system in Cameroon needs to be revamped. And the way it stands now, it is true that we have an election a few months from now, but the hope is for a free and fair election. And if EKEU is not able to handle this election and make it free and fair,
please, you're muted, Dr. ENOAKU. Please, you're muted. I think we'll come back to you subsequently, just to remind our viewers tuning in just now that they are onto the Pan-African media and on the program Global Insight, analyzing stakes in Cameroon as the nation gets towards the presidential elections in October 2025. What can we expect? Can we say this is a turning point in Cameroon, or this will be a turning point in Cameroon as far as the elections is concerned, which will in turn solve the crisis which have brought the country into a state of fragility? We're looking at the political sphere of Cameroon, the social sphere, economic, and its diplomatic sphere. How will this election serve as a litmus test towards solving a plethora of issues and writing a new trajectory or new history for the Republic of Cameroon? What will benefit, and how can Cameroonian politicians actually prioritize national interest through their political agenda? If everything is good with you, I'm coming back to you, Dr. ENOAKU, for you to conclude probably your statement.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. I think it was a connection problem from your end, not from my end. Yeah, I was trying to round up and say that the government have the higher stakes here. It is true that every citizen is supposed to be peaceful, every Cameroonian is supposed to be peaceful. I do not see Cameroonians as violent. I don't see the Cameroon as It is the inability of the government to handle simple situations that causes people to go violent. Because, like I said, when injustice becomes the rule, the law, resistance becomes the rule. People are going to resist. You're not going to come with impunity forever and ever, and everybody's going to sit there. So again, we are asking the Cameroon government to make sure that they put everything in place to lower the temper, make sure that people can have their ID cards, people have their voters cards, they go and vote. If somebody is supposed to vote, let him not be denied the right to vote. They are supposed to sensitize the population. And we don't want to see situations where on voting day, voters' boxes are being stuffed because the opposition do not have representative here, like my colleague Dr. AMBE said. People do not have representative. It is supposed to be a duty and responsibility of ELECAM, whether political parties have representative there or not. And ELECAM is supposed to be ELECAM representative is supposed to be there. And again, we are dealing with a situation where the electoral system is such a way that if there was, we are so close to election. The point I'm trying to bring here is that the electoral system in Cameroon is so flawed in such a way that it doesn't really represent what an electoral body is supposed to be. But with what we have right now, if they want to carry out a free and fair elections, they will do it. If their hands are not tied, that's the point. They can still do it with what we have right now. The problem is, do they have the freedom to exercise their rights as an electoral body to conduct free and fair elections in the country? Can they really say that they represent the people and not the power, and not the party in power?
Or
Can they really say?
or themselves, yeah. That's an option. Because sometimes, I'm sorry to interject, but I also want us to look at a position where somebody maneuvers an act just to actually keep his or her position, knowing fully well that public opinion will push that to the government.
Oh yeah, definitely, because the members of ELECAM, we saw recently that the president, I just give an example, the president of the Constitutional Council was jubilating over the victory of the CPDM and even over his own election and so on. I mean, that tells you where his allegiance is. So it is the same thing with the members of ELECAM. If the allegiance is on their pockets, they want to protect their pockets. But let us forget, I'm telling you this, that it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. Tables will turn one day in Cameroon. Let everybody that's listening know this. I have told my colleagues, I've told my friends, those of you especially of the ruling party, who thinks that you can act with impunity, know that one day in this nation, tables will turn. It might take a little bit longer or not. Tables will turn. And some of you will be accountable for some of the actions that you've taken in that country. So make sure that you have that in mind, that you are serving the people and not serving your pocket. I don't want to take so much time to give the floor to other colleagues.
Absolutely. We are gradually moving to the end of the program, so it is imperative that we focus more now on recommendations, solutions towards probably the solutions to the problems faced by Cameroon, particularly in the sphere of politics. When the political scene is not healthy, it directly affects the economy, the social, and even the diplomatic life of a country. And we are going to examine what scope for resolve of these problems, Dr. AMBE Valentine, as we continue to analyze constructively, seeing, of course, that the government of Cameroon has a lot to play in order to ensure that citizens do not have, an interpretation of what may not even exist because of the people in the position of power. You're standing as an independent candidate, you mentioned in your preamble. So what do you think is that new element that you can bring in, or that you already bringing in, given this desire to be directly involved in the political life of your country with the aim of bringing about positive change? So what different something different that would change all of these to the benefit of Cameroonians and not probably to benefit us for probably our personal agendas.
Yes, Clarice. To begin with, in a democratic society, when institutions are working very well, the citizens submit to the institutions. And when the institutions are not working very well, the institutions have to submit to the citizens. It's a two-way flow. Either power is given to the institutions by the citizens, or power remains in the hand of the citizens from the institutions. And I think it's high time Cameroonians took up the responsibility to take power to themselves because the institutions have failed on their part. To be sincere, if we go to the legislative, they are there to establish the laws of the nation. The parliament is to establish the law, but there is something we call the law and the rule of law. What Cameroon does not have is the rule of law. Cameroon have very brilliant, intelligent, and very interesting laws, but we do not have the rule of law. And the rule of law is what will regulate all the imbalance in the nation. I want to believe that the rule of law is the interpretation of the law rightly and applying it correctly. The other challenge we have is that individuals have become the law instead of the law taking its place. If not individuals becoming the law, why will a governor's son hit somebody with a car, and when you ask the child says, my father is a governor? Now individuals have become the law in the country. Why the poor man does not have a place? Because I think the law serves every citizen. But when individuals become the law serves only those who are in high places. One of the things we have to fight intensively is that the law is applied and individuals don't become the law. That's one major challenge Cameroon has. And if at all we are able to establish that the law runs in a way that even the last man standing by the roadside, who is an orphan, can be justified, liberated by the law, then we are going to have a balanced society. I think the major challenge we are also having in Cameroon is that we have institutions like the legislative sector, like the judiciary, and also the executive that are not functional. We have to do the reduction of power. The president is too over-empowered. And if a president is too much empowered, it does not give this institution the opportunity to operate. I was listening to President Lazarus Lachakwera of Malawi. When he came to power, I read the constitution. He said, the president has so much power. The first thing they have to do is to reduce the president's power. In a country where a president is almost like a king, we are not ruled by laws, we are ruled by decrees. As a matter of fact, whatever he decrees stands. The parliament is just a makeshift tent to execute what the king decrees. And I think we have to go past that level to make sure that the law governs the society. Like Dr. Elijah said, if you look like Donald Trump wants to rule America like a king, but the law keeps bringing him to order and structuring him and putting him in place. Now, the federal court just ruled in favor that he should send military forces to California. They are embarrassing people, but the case is still in the courts. They are trying to put things together. In a country where the law is applied properly, every individual, even the last man, has the opportunity to be justified or condemned by the law. But in a society where we don't have the law being applied, we have individuals who have become the law. People manipulate the law. People do whatever they like because they think they are properly placed. Cameroon has become like a jungle where you have to fight your way to the top in order to enjoy the privileges of the nation. The common man does not have a place in the society. So a fair government will be the one that will give every citizen the right to stand at any position in the society and find your way to the top. One other major challenge we also have again in Cameroon is that there are some certain institutions put in place that are not beneficial to the nation. These institutions are supposed to be scraped out. For instance, if I ask you, hundreds of millions are spent per annum to maintain the Senate. What is the function of the Senate in Cameroon? What benefit has the Senate brought to the political landscape in Cameroon? Individuals are just there to sit and eat, and nothing substantial is happening. So if you look at it critically, we have all the institutions put in place. We have to crack down some of those institutions and be able to restructure the system. Every country that does not have justice and does not have the rule of law, no matter what we do, that country is going nowhere. One other thing we see again in Cameroon is that a lot of corruption has infiltrated the system where development cannot come. Individuals may come into the country, may want to establish something substantial that will benefit the masses. Do you know, in a society where civil servants are richer than the businessmen, or the private sector is poorer than the public sector, is an invest in economic growth? where individuals who sit in offices, their signatures are stronger than a business capital in a shop. Somebody's stamp in his office is bigger than a supermarket. Somebody's office or his uniform that he puts on him is more stronger than the capital of a business enterprise. Where individuals who sit in offices and run up businesses have so much money, more than the people who are running every day in the market doing business. Those are all the checks and the balances you have to put in place. The next thing is that people automatically will borrow huge sums of money from IMF, huge sums of money from the World Bank, and this money is directed in the pocket of individuals. No discipline is meted upon all those who embezzle all these funds. We have COVID Gate, we have Glencoe Gate, we have the what are we talking? Some of those gates are brass mentioned here. These are issues that have been killed and silent, and these are things that tons of billions ran into. A minister or a representative of a ministry came on television and said they have built a 5-star hotel underground at Olympic Stadium. A hotel we have not seen, but we have seen the stadium. How do you explain that? That people openly and publicly tell lies to the masses and they go scot-free. As a matter of fact, it's the highest liar in Cameroon that is considered the most intelligent person. These are some of the things we have to confront squarely and be able to handle individuals and get them arrested and put in prison if at all we have to have a balanced society. I'm telling you, without law and justice, we're going nowhere.
Actually, yeah, the law is there to protect the citizens, and I will bring us to what Barack Obama once said, that it is not necessary to lock up people. It's good to actually recover what they have taken from the nation, so they can use the resources to actually ensure development that will benefit society. I don't know if that is practical in Cameroon. We come to you, Mr. ACHILLE EKEU, with the recommendations. We are still analyzing the scope for change. Do you think that we have the capacity, we've been talking for close to 2 hours, to probably push the authorities that we, before the elections, that even those who are not in power at the moment, if eventually there is another person at the helm, what can they actually put in place to be able to ensure that it's not just a continuation, but then we are seeing new strategies or new structures and every policy that will benefit every Cameroonian, starting from the layman on the street?
All right, so I think we have to be very clear about what we're looking for here. We have to find solutions that are really practical.
Absolutely.
We know that we have a protracted armed conflict in the Anglophone Northwest and Southwest region. We know that there is a political uncertainty right now due to President Diaz's advanced age. And also the absence of a clear successor, even though the constitution is pretty clear, but even the president of the Senate is also as old as Mr. Biya, so it could be problematic. But there's also widespread human rights abuses that we've seen, and that led to the nose of war, the nose of conflict that we have right now. In terms of economic stagnation, poverty, and corruption, it's really destroying the fabrics of the country. And there was also mass displacements of people all over in Nigeria, in other countries as well, that are there for humanitarian needs coming out of the different zone of conflicts, including the northern part. So the solutions that I would say are of different. There are different solutions that we should contemplate. In terms of the NOSO issue, the Northwest and Southwest conflict, we need to have inclusive national dialogue and mediation. Pretty much, we need to renew and broaden the dialogue efforts that have been started, about the Anglophone crisis. And involve this time all the stakeholders, the government, the separatists, the civil society, the diaspora, all these stakeholders have to get together, in a situation where there could be a mediation by international organizations, the African Union, United Nations, whatever. So that would be one solution. And we
Mr.
can also.
Eke, please, just on that point regarding the resolving the Anglophone crisis. At this
Yes.
juncture, I don't know if I should say that it has been polarized. There are some third party that has infiltrated the crisis. I wouldn't want to disclose identity for obvious reasons that those in the crisis at war are now perpetrating the acts themselves, and of course we have witnesses where you see people fake their kidnappings or abduction to be able to even extort money from their own children. How can we probably analyze this, especially the government and other stakeholders, when it has degenerated at this juncture?
I mean, the solution remains talking. We need to sit down and talk. There's no, whenever there's a conflict, every time there's a conflict, whether it's within your family, within, different parties outside the family, within a country, it's a Cameroon issue. The solution can only come from Cameroonians. If we can get help from other, third parties, but we have to sit down and talk. That's the only way we can solve the issue. There's no way around it. War, keeping the fighting, and what you just mentioned, all these kidnappings, they are those results of the lawlessness that is happening in that area, right? So, and then some of the ministers, some people are profiting from that situation, pretending to, well, they're profiting from that. Let's keep it simple, because I know the president of the National Assembly said that Boko Haram was in Yaoundé, something like that. So it's so anyway, but so we have to sit down and talk. Just like I'm saying, we have to have a national dialogue that includes all the stakeholders, and that's what I think that's one of the solutions that Mr. Maurice Kamto is proposing to solve that issue. Put every stakeholder around the table and talk and understand and listen. Practice active listening. Actively listen to everybody's issues, and then come up with solutions. And those solutions could be brought by the different parties themselves. It doesn't have to come from a third party, from an international organization. No, we can sit down and say, okay, in order for us to do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and then we come to an agreement. Like I said, nothing is going to solve our problems if we don't sit down and talk and listen to each other and find solutions ourselves. Because every time it's, the solutions come from outside, where the outside party doesn't really understand the intricacies of the different, the issues, and therefore they propose, the solutions are always a blank solution, a solution that's not really necessarily, adaptable to our current situation. So that's one. There is another solution, electoral reform. We have to think about electoral reform. I know many political parties have, gotten together in the past and made a suggestion in terms of political reforms, electoral reforms to ELECAM. And ELECAM itself acknowledged that there were problems in the current electoral code. And so they agreed that there should be some changes. And so political parties got together and made a proposal, but the government rejected that. And then we also have to think about succession planning in terms of political transition, right? So that is critical in Cameroon, because right now the country is in a standstill situation. Nothing is working because everybody is waiting for whatever is going to happen with President Paul Biya. So major decisions are not being taken, major projects are not being undertaken, major decisions are on hold because people don't know what the future is going to be. And like I said earlier, some people are saying that there are people that are engaging in bribery, in corruption, in embezzlement of funds because they don't know what the future lays, what the future is going to be for them. And some are starting to flee the country. That's not happening yet, but
that is not actually helping the country actually.
Right. So it's not helping the country. Yeah. So we need to have a succession plan that is clear, that allows everybody to understand what's going to happen in case Mr. Biya is incapacitated and is not in a position to manage the country anymore.
Absolutely.
We also
okay, just round off, please.
Yes, yes. So let me run that. So we also have to address human rights abuses that have been happening. President Kamto came from Europe, and then he was sequestrated, in his hotel in Douala without any reasons, and so those kind of abuses, it wears down on people, in people's nerves, and the whole population that came out to salute him was abused. They were frustrated, and that could have led to some issues. But thankfully, nothing happened. They were understanding, and the president Mr. Kamto, also put out a message asking them to go home, that he's fine. But these are the situations that are unnecessary, creating frustration and madness to people, and people get frustrated, and that could lead to all kind of a situation that we can predict. So there are a whole host of issues like that in terms of security reform that we need to put in place. International engagement also have to be sought, because we cannot do everything by ourselves. Sometimes we need help from other international organizations or associations or different countries. If the situation is like a family, I keep going back to family. If you, your wife, your husband, your wife has an issue in your family, and it gets to a point where you can't solve it yourself, then you seek out your parents or the different stakeholders in your families to come and get together and find a solution. So that is not negative necessarily. It could be a step that we have to also think about in terms of diplomacy, and then helping the country come out of its current situation. So indeed, those are the few solutions that I have for you today, Clarice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And of course, how can Cameroon actually adopt an internal diplomacy that will eventually write a clear trajectory and solve some of solve the plethora of problems facing the country. With you, Dr. Elijah ENOAKU, I will probably appreciate if you maybe base your analysis on post-election era. Should ELECAM and other probably stakeholders that be ensure that we have these anticipated free, fair elections. So what do you think now? Probably the practical steps that the new leadership can actually take to be able to actually correct some of these lapses which have brought about the fragility or susceptibility of the nation Cameroon.
Clarice, did you say the new leadership? Are you talking about the leadership that takes over after October 2025? You're talking about the leadership that's in place as of now?
I'm talking about, probably you didn't get me, like your analysis being focused on post-election era, because Dr. AMBE, Mr. ACHILLE have highlighted some of the points that can be done, or some of the aspects that we can work on. Should we have a free, fair election like we are, the Cameroonians are anticipating? What do you think is those strategies that the new leadership, whosoever will be, should put in place to be able to write a new governance structure or system in Cameroon that will probably correct some of these lapses and make Cameroon take advantage of its resources, diverse resources?
Oh, that's going to take like 4, 5, or 6 of your programs for us to diagnose that issue. That's
absolutely,
a big
we are
one,
going to do that because we are intentional about solving problems.
Yeah, so the very first thing is to because I want to stick to ELECAM. I want to stick about elections because that's what we are talking about. You want to go into the economy, you want to go to the issue of Northwest and Southwest. That's, it's going to be so broad. We're going to diversify into different areas. But let me stick to elections because that's what we are discussing here, and the stakes are very high.
Absolutely.
The very first thing is to structure ELECAM, restructure ELECAM to have an independent and autonomous body that represent and manage elections in Cameroon. Because when you do not have that kind of an institution that people have confidence in, number one, you are already injecting chaos into the system. You're injecting doubts into the results. Because it's very critical that people trust the body, It's very critical that people know and believe the results. But when you start by creating a body that is like the ruling party, a body that looks and resembles the ruling party, number one, the perception is already there that these guys are not in for the interest of the people. These guys are in for the interest of their political party and therefore their stomach. That is the perception number one you are creating. Looking at about transparency, you have to implement measures that will bring confidence in the results. For example, my colleague there, Dr. AMBE, talked about publication. Why does it take so much time to publish results of an election that is conducted within 24 hours? Why does it take 15 days to publish that? You are already injecting doubt into the hearts of the people. So that has to be revamped by itself. Because when people feel that something is already being cooked at background, elections taking place 24 hours, the results are not being published, people are getting different rumors, there is the internet there, you're going to see every kind of thing flying, whether false or true, you're going to, because you have created an atmosphere that you've given people the room to doubt the result of the election, to doubt the result of the election. So it is very, very critical that we should introduce that. What about extending campaign periods? Right now, as we speak, elections in Cameroon is supposed to be in October or whatever time it is, but cannot go past October. But right now, official campaigns have not been launched. Come on, in a country like Cameroon, where you have, I don't know, 300 political parties, even though some of them are just mushroom parties, yet a couple of months, 1 or 2 months of election, official campaigns have not been launched. That is an aberration. Not only that, what is the official voting age in Cameroon? I think I remember the last time I checked, it was 20.
Yes, 20.
It was 20. Yes. The official voting age should be 18 years. 18 years is already adults. What is the Cameroon government or election or whoever have made this election, what are they afraid of when it comes to the young people? These are people that are supposed to be the custodian of the society tomorrow. These are people that you're supposed to encourage to go into political lives of the nation. These are people that are supposed to be encouraged to participate in nation building. But at the same time, you're cutting them off from decision making. That is not what you do when you are trying to build a country and build a system. What about improving the qualification process for voters and so on? You have today, as you speak, in Cameroon, oh my goodness, people, like my colleague said, people are able to manufacture voters' cards in their bedrooms. How can a system that is supposed to provide for authenticity of elections allow or not able to identify between a fake and a real voter ID card? So there's so much that needs to be done, even between now and the election, that can be done to authenticate and to let Cameroonians have some hope and some confidence in the electoral process. Because if you look at the life of this country is a country that is blessed with a lot of resources. It will take us another day to talk about the resources in Cameroon. But as we speak, Cameroon is on its knees. This nation is on its knees because of corruption, lack of confidence, capital flight, fear, risk, and so on. Investors, if you look at the investors' reports, my colleague who is an economist can tell you better. If you look at the investors' report of Africa, Cameroon way far down there. Why is that? Investors are afraid of the risk. There is so much uncertainty in Cameroon. People don't know what's going to happen with the elections. People don't know whether President Paul is going to run again, because right now, as we speak, a 92-year-old president, no matter how good he has been, you cannot be efficient. That is a fact. We cannot deny that. Number 5, there are so many things happening in Cameroon, like war in the northern and southwest, that are allowed to linger for a very long time. Something that would have been solved with a stroke of a pen. My colleague already talked about it. This has been allowed. Therefore, it has eaten into the fabric of economic confidence of Cameroon in such a way that investors do not see Cameroon as a viable option. As we speak today, the most performing currency in the world is the Ghanaian cedi. How did Ghana get here? Time will fail me to begin to discuss that, but that's not the point. What I'm trying to make is that if Cameroon government does not put the political environment in place to make sure that Cameroon can come out of this situation and become a nation that is appealing to the world, appealing to investors, appealing to others, it is going to be, I'm afraid to say it, the elections can go from being a blessing to become a curse
And
because
we are
there's
not
going to be
praying that
more
for
chaos.
Cameroon indeed.
So we are not praying that. We are not
Yeah,
praying that. But we have to sound the alarm that the powers
absolutely.
that be take care and make sure that things do not degenerate from where we are now. That's why we are discussing this. That election Cameroon or election or the government that we keep talking about the government more, even though every citizen has the right to maintain peaceful atmosphere, peaceful election.
Absolutely.
But the stakes are higher with the government
With the
because they hold
government.
the knife and the yak.
Sure.
They hold the knife and the yak. That's why the government must put in place all these strategies to make sure that they are free and fair elections in Cameroon.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Elijah ENOAKU. Just to remind our viewers that this is Global Insight, a discursive program, a knowledge sharing program that brings together stakeholders, experts, and people to share their opinion constructively on how we can solve problems pertaining various countries, and also to see how probably we can capitalize and gain advantage in the changes happening at the global world. And I think it is thanks to the African media, I can say that we have come to the realization of the how things happen in the global world, and we can independently take decisions that will protect our sovereignty in every dimension. We are talking about economic sovereignty, political sovereignty, why not cultural and even social sovereignty. Today's edition focused on Cameroon because it is actually a year that there is a huge, I don't know if I should call it anxiety, and a level of anxiety and anticipation at the same time as people are, waiting to head to the polls to vote their leaders that will determine again the fate of the country in the next 7 years. So it is largely a program that promotes constructive dialogue towards resolving the problems of the world. It is often said that even if people go to war, at the end they will still sit on the table to dialogue. Then why give so much time for the world to persist? And that is why we want us to continue to, thank all those who have made themselves available to be part of this platform sponsored by the Pan-African Media and Globe Us to constructively analyze things and of course send a signal to those at the helm taking decisions, and even citizens to be mindful of their respective duties that will lead to peace and tranquility, which will in turn attract foreign direct investment development, which will benefit all Cameroonians. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the great insight on our topic this day on Cameroon. Looking forward to seeing how the atmosphere evolves, and ensuring that this will help us to have some sort of a political maturity in Cameroon in the few months that we still have, to ensure that in October we will not have what many people are actually anticipating. Thank you again, and I also appreciate the technical crew for ensuring that the program was a success. Thank you so much, and it's on this note, ladies and gentlemen, that we draw the curtains into today's edition of your discursive program Global Insight. Thank you, and have a wonderful moment in the company of programs on Pan-African